All set, Dean.
All set.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of the Providence School Board. We're going to start this at 5:34. So, we have a motion to approve the agenda. So moved, and I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any positions that I carried? I think we have the quorum because with two of us and right? Okay. So we're moving on to 3.0, the consent agenda. We have a motion to that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions that I carried? So we have learned that the CTAR contract is being pulled out. Right. Do you have a
We just need to make some updates. It'll be, yeah, we're not gonna, they're currently under contract and we need to reconfigure their contract.
That's not going to affect our position in any way, shape, or form.
No, so the current contract expires, I think, August 31, so this would just be if we choose to extend.
Okay.
Just continue to the scope.
You have to make a motion. Put it out.
Yeah, that's what
Put it out. Something as in progress. So we have a motion to table that.
Motion.
So I second that. All in favor? Aye. Any positions and abstentions? Aye. Let's get into this. It's a vast learning company, LLC.
Yes, that's me. Good evening. I'm Colleen Danbrook, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. You have already, this is an amendment, you've already brought Savas to you for math, and since then, we've had some additional purchases we'd like to make for also social studies and science, specifically related to our AP courses at several of our high schools, our advanced placement courses. So what this does is it allows us to ensure that our advanced placement courses have the newest editions of the textbooks, so we have the most current information in front of our students. So the math information is the same as it was last time. And we've given you specifically by each school the breakdown for that, and then you see the additional breakdown for the science and social studies courses in the table.
With the both the purchase and the contract boxes are checked off with this form, is that?
That's because it is a contract, but we're also purchasing, we're getting physical materials out of it. Yes.
My other question was related to, in regards to PCTA piece on that. How many credit hours will be earned? Would it be college credit hours earned?
It is.
Upon the completion of these AP courses?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's fantastic.
It is. So in our EEP courses, this is one example where a student would receive their high school credit and then would receive college credit. So that course is amazing.
No. You mean college, but you mean college as CCRI or as URI or?
I would have to look up for you specifically which partnership this one is with, but it's the local schools that we partner with. I can pitch them.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because if they take the credit AP and go into URI, it's not useful for them because it's credit to CCRI.
The credit would be transferable at any of the local colleges or any community colleges, and it's history is part of like an associate's program, so it would work in any of the schools, but we specifically partner with one of them who awards the credit, but they would, if they chose not to go to that school and they went to a different one, it could still carry with them. They would use it.
You mentioned several high schools. What about the other schools? It's not covering all the high schools.
So those were other contracts that I brought in front of you in previous meetings that cover those, and the one coming up next covers more of our AP courses. So we work with different vendors. College Board, Savas, Cengage, to provide different texts. College Board for advanced placement courses offers a menu of textbooks that they pre-approve, and we work with the schools and the teachers to decide which textbook they would like to go with.
I've never had an experience where we partner with this vendor and service offerings from this vendor, and so that students would like to this one as opposed that we have a situation, because I'm thinking that this is high school in Providence. We should be able to have a uniform program for all our students. Now, if we have census here, and we have another one there, what about the quality of the service? Is it?
That's a great question. So what we are, part of the strategy that we're going for is that across the schools, for an example, let's say it was an AP biology course and it's offered at 4 of our high schools. These textbooks are for all of those courses across all the schools so that there is that consistency and we can do planning time with those teachers to support their instruction. So there will not be a case for these contracts where one school is using one textbook and another school has a different one for the same course. The goal is to get them all in the same one.
It's continuity.
Yeah.
Textbooks and courses.
Exactly.
That's my question. So we have a motion to recommend to passage.
So,
I support that. All in favor? Aye. Any oppositions and abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Like Tom left or still?
Still me. Only one more.
Same here.
So this is very similar, different vendor, but same purpose. The advanced placement courses. This is covering math and science courses across several of our high schools. In the addition of financial algebra, which you brought up before, wanting to make sure our high schoolers are prepared for the realities of managing finances. So we are purchasing updated textbooks for those courses as well.
Beautiful. But this is not covering all the schools.
Not all of the AP, so schools get to select which AP courses they're going to run. So not all the schools run every AP course. They vary the courses based on what the students would like to take.
yes, actually, in regard to the new tax brackets that will be reviewed, will those be for the calendar year 2023 tax codes, and will they align, the most recent, updates?
Can you say more about where you're
In
pulling tax code
the
information?
body of the, let's see.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
So that is content that is a part of these textbooks where they're talking about taxes. So for example, in the financial algebra one is the 2019 tax update edition. Each one would have, I can double check on the, I can't pronounce that second edition, but the second line item there that talks about financial applications tax code update, I would have to find out exactly which year that tax code is referencing, but I can get you that information.
I appreciate that. I have no other questions.
We have a motion to recommend this for passage.
No.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any oppositions? The ayes have it. So we go to the next one, GNTP.
Sure. I can take the lead on that one. So Zach Scott, Deputy Superintendent of Operations, joined by Claire Turner, who's our leadership development specialist. My colleague Crystal Lofton is on all this vacation, so I will be speaking on that contract. So taking a step back, TNTP has been a partner since the district was awarded a multi-year TSL grant, which is the Teacher and School Leader Incentive Grant in 2020. It was a 3-year grant. And under that grant, we've been able to accomplish a significant amount in terms of improving and supporting leadership in the district. So it's allowed us to develop, introduce, implement a new compensation system. It's allowed us to start the first leadership cohort in the district, as well as begin the design of a new evaluation system. So what we are looking to do is to extend that work for the upcoming year after their current contract runs through. So renewing it from 2023 through September 2024. And really building on the work that's been done to date in three critical areas. So the first is, like I said, we've gone through the design of the evaluation system. Obviously, the implementation of that is then very important. So how do we train our school leaders, but also principal supervisors in that work, as well as ongoing norming and calibration. So as we roll that out to make sure that there's no bias, that our evaluators are seeing the same things and scoring the same way. Because evaluation was a critical part of that initial grant and something we want to make sure we get right as we implement. The second is on assistant principal evaluation and coaching. So part of the work of the initial grant was building a pipeline of talent and a deeper bench for school leaders. And so we've had fellows who have transitioned from a fellow to now being assistant principals. And we want to provide them ongoing coaching so that we retain them and that they are prepared for those roles as full-time school leaders in the near future. So that's the second big work chunk of it is around assistant principal coaching. The third one is around support for our leadership fellows. So we've successfully had one cohort, it's a 2-year program, one cohort go all the way through that program. And we have a second cohort that is past that first phase. They are now certified, but in their second year, as they are now building administrators certified, they receive ongoing coaching and support so that they can, in their first year as an EP, begin their development as a leader. So we are excited. I think that we've had a lot of success in this area over the past 3 years, and this is to build on that work. TNT, I should mention, TNTV has been the partner we've had throughout that work, so they are well equipped, well acquainted with our evaluation system, with leadership development. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Seems like a great program. In terms of the cohort, the 5 fellows in the cohort 2, what is the statistical factor in relation to these 5 fellows? If you can, are they all assistant principals?
Yeah, all of our cohort 2 fellows, they have all accepted full-time assistant principal positions. So of the 2 cohorts we have had 100% success rate in placing an assistant principal position roles after the first year of the program. And the first cohort that just finished, they received their full certification because at the end of year 1 they received their provisional with the guarantee that if they go through the program, I will fully certify them. So they're all fully certified of cohort 1 and cohort 2. They will be certified at the end of next year. And of those 5, 4 of them are in elementary and 1 in secondary.
Questions?
You did mention that this is a 3-year program as you know. So this one we're getting into right now, is it another 3-year or just 1 year now?
No, so the current grant had expired September of 2023. So this would be to extend 1 year beyond that. We're in the process of applying for another 3-year contract. We won't know whether we're awarded that until September. So if we were to be awarded that would expand a lot of this work. But this is to add 1 more year beyond outside of the initial grant.
So my couple of questions about the timing from October to September, which falls into 2 different fiscal years. How do you hope to align that with
Part of the reason we do that is the initial contract that is expiring September 30th of 2023, that is the federal fiscal year that we tie things to, which is different than our, we wanted to have our contract tied to their fiscal year because it aligns with how we have to look. It's also important that a lot of this training does, happen both in the school year, but also in the summer. So this will allow us to do training, next school year, but also in the summer after. But it helps align to that. It crosses our fiscal year, but it is aligned with the federal fiscal year.
That's my question. Do we have a motion to recommend this policy?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any abstentions and position of the high staff? Thank you. Let's move to TMG.
Hi, I am Joan Jackson, Senior Advisor. Going to introduce our team over here.
I'm Jamie Lee, the Assistant Principal at Behavior Group.
I'm Amy Harrington. I'm an English specialist that works in all the middle schools in Providence.
Actually, the principal of YouTube Academy.
I'm Dr. Melissa Watson. I'm the performance coach for James.
Stephen Peters, performance coach. Wow, that's flowers.
Yes, it's not representative of how much time we're going to take, but we just we did want to make sure that if you had any questions, you had a few different folks. So I will queue it up, and then we would like some of our administrators to speak to their experience. As you know, when we're dealing with a significant achievement gap in Providence, and it takes a lot of pieces to put in place, and building a foundation and stacking on top of that to make sure that we get everything that we need to really accelerate growth for our students. And when we say accelerate growth, we mean that students have to grow more than 1 year during the school year. So our target for all of our schools and our students is to make 1.5 years growth each year. So with that being said, to do that, you need things like high quality, rigorous curriculum, which we have. We need a really robust professional learning program, which we do. We've extended professional development throughout the whole summer, and it extends throughout the year. We also need, daily coaching and technical assistance for our schools, and this is where the work that we have with the DM group and their coaches, we get the technical assistance that we need in the schools to really focus on the data of the students that are actually in those schools. So we look at pre-unit assessments and post-unit assessments for the curriculum that we're implementing. And when you look at that data, then you make decisions about which students need to be retaught certain skills, which students are ready to move ahead. How do we really make sure that all of those students are mastering the standards that are being taught? And what the DM group has done is they have provided, teams of coaches. We have a principal coach, and we have teacher coaches, like 4 to 8 people assigned to our schools that work with them throughout the year to go through these cycles of looking at data and providing they help us analyze the data, they pull the data for us, they help us strategize and get our common planning time meetings together with the teachers, and they provide all of that support that we need with the goal of being, then the schools can pick that up themselves. And we were going to be doing our presentation at the last board meeting, and unfortunately that had gotten cut, so we're going to do our presentation, which I'll leave you with the slides. If you want to pass those over. We're going to be doing these presentations at the upcoming board meeting. But, I think that when we look at the upcoming school year, the state is requiring all students to grow 2 years within a school year. And so we really need to make sure that our schools are poised to be able to really focus on the day-to-day and make rapid changes in real time. And so this is where the experiences that we've had with this breakthrough model that we piloted in this past school year, and the growth that the students made that were part of this program doubled and tripled the growth of our other students. And so we didn't use different curriculum, we didn't have different teachers, we didn't have different leaders, we just really provided the support that the schools needed to use their data in the way that it should be used to make really strong instructional decisions, and also focus on the right data. And so, this is where their expertise has helped us. So our goal is to move this out to all of our schools next year. And when you think about that, it's really coming down to $200,000 per school. But what the DM group is bringing to us is over 100 team members to come and work with us in our system. So I would like just our school leaders to say a few words about the experience for them.
So with this program, the coaches were very beneficial in helping me delve deeper into the data that we already used. So we had to come up with SMART goals. And in order to not put one more thing on the teachers, I tried to make sure that it was tied to the literacy program that we were already using. So with that, the teachers have to do conferencing and look at data, but like Ms. Jackson said, it required us to look at the right kind of data and decide who needed conferencing, who needed just-in-time supports, and what could be done from there. I met with my coach weekly. Cassie was amazing. There were some times that our meetings would interfere with bus duty, and I would be out on Zoom with my AirPod in, listening to her, and she's listening to me and giving me support. But she's all the way in California, so we had to kind of figure that out. But once we got on a good schedule, she was able to say, okay, I see this week we've met this goal, but what's the next step? She walked me through those hard questions. So in turn, when I met with a team of teachers, and Ms. Harrington also joined us as well, look at these students that we've identified that need support. What are we doing now that they've reached this goal? What can we do next to kind of accelerate their growth? So we also have Ms. Karen Smith. She would come and visit as well, and we walk classrooms. And she really challenged us to do just-in-time supports. Like if you see something, respectfully address it then. Don't wait until the next CPT when it's been a week and 80 kids have gone through something that may be incorrect or just maybe tweaking. So,
And CPT, just to
I'm
clarify,
sorry.
it's okay. CPT is when we have that common planning
Yeah.
time. So if you wait for that, it's gonna be like a week.
Right.
Go on.
So just so that we can have those respectful conversations right then to kind of steer the ship the other direction in which it needs to go, so that the data of the next week would be reflective of all the work that we put into it. So it helped me a lot. Help coach my teachers.
So I got to join the team at Nathaniel Green as well. I would consider this support with accountability, which I think is very helpful. Similar to the things that Jamie said, it really helped us to focus on, let's look at the students' needs who are not being met. Let's come together as a team of teachers and coaches and figure out what can we do as a group to change that for this group of kids. And then we're gonna monitor it, we're gonna adjust it. If it's working, we're gonna ramp it up. If it's not working, then we need to pivot, and let's dig into the research. When you're in a middle school, I'm sure you know, there's 800 kids and things happen, and so this just really kept us on course. And there was somebody that was always bringing us back to say, don't miss these kids, don't miss these kids. So we found it.
Again, Matt Judah from the Cube Academy. So the DM group really helped us in two separate ways. One was with my executive coaching, which was really helpful, as Jamie alluded to, the one-on-one support that I received in person on a bi-weekly basis from the coach. And what we really focused on was micro goals. So she would help me look at the data that my teams were producing and help navigate the course to their goal without having to be the leader of every team. It allowed me as a principal to be more efficient and to give my teachers the opportunity to be the true leaders that they are, to demonstrate their skills as professionals. And as we designed this work at EQ, we really focused on what are we doing in the building that needs to be done better. So we looked at our SAT outcomes for math, SAT outcomes for ELA, graduation rate, and student attendance. And so each one of those teams already had an existing group and an existing leader, and they were doing good work. But what DM really supported us with doing was saying, as a team, over the next 10 weeks, what is your goal and what is your stretch goal? And how are you going to get there? And they provided us the technical assistance and accountability and said, every week we're going to meet with your teams and we want to look at your data together. They provided the technical assistance, they helped the interpretation, and they coached the leaders of those teams. So it allowed those team leaders to be more effective, and it gave them an extra voice kind of in the background on their shoulder to push the team. Because we know sometimes among our peers, we don't push ourselves as hard as we could, but when there's someone watching or supporting, we're pushed to go further. And to give you a little idea of what the words of my teachers were, because I asked them for their input. The DM coach collaborated, advocated, and supported me as a leader to ensure we were going the right direction as a team. They helped facilitate weekly agendas. They encouraged positivity and out-of-the-box thinking. They provided professional support in achieving goals and really giving us the technical support. They helped us talk through barriers and focus on solutions. And what really happened at EQ is for our ELA growth, those students who we were focusing on in these groups exceeded not only the district and their peers, but exceeded the national trend for ELA growth between PSAT and SAT. Similarly, with our math performance, we exceeded their peers in the district. We were almost on par with national trends for growth as well.
Do you want to do this?
Oh, that's actually highlighted on page 6 and 7 of this. I know you're going to get this in the board meeting. But on the bottom of page 7, you'll see our graduation. So this team really focused on those students who are in credit recovery. And we know that seniors who are 18 and working jobs sometimes struggle to get those couple courses they need to recover to get across the stage. So we had a team that focused specifically on those students who needed extra support to finish courses to get across the stage. We had one young lady who specifically was not planning on graduating. She actually planned on staying for the summer and potentially part of the next year. And bit by bit, with the support of that team, really looking at her on a weekly basis, she was actually able to graduate with her peers on time. And that's something that probably would not have happened if we had not had the technical support to really have us focusing on every single individual kid within that group. So as a whole, DM Group really provided us with the technical support, the outside oversight, and just someone to bounce ideas off of that wasn't in the mix of the work we were doing.
And I am Melissa Watson. I serve as a leadership coach for NG, and I want to first and foremost thank you for the privilege of working with your school leaders. Each demonstrated a real passion and dedication to doing great things on behalf of your scholars. So I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the schools. But I also want to talk a little bit about what we were able to do with the principals. And as described, it's real-time coaching. And so we were able to pivot and make decisions that would impact scholar outcomes immediately, not sometime in the future, right? Because everything that has to be done today. Our scholars are, facing some significant challenges. And so we want to accelerate their growth immediately. We were also able to coach and to work with your leaders in a way that gave them what I saw was some of the confidence to leverage tools that were already in place, right? To maximize those tools in order to accelerate outcomes, and also the confidence to make real child-centered decisions, absent of concerns in that way, that every time you make a decision on behalf of a scholar, you're making the right decision. And so it was truly a privilege, and I want to my colleague Jessica share a little bit too.
Yeah, Stephen Peters, performance coach. I had opportunity to work with the school and teams, particularly around attendance and graduation rate. And I think there are a few things that stand out. Had to do with data, looking at the right data, which we considered before, but also giving voice to the team. So that had to do with collaboration. I think one of the key concerns for both teams was wanting to not add something new to their plate, but really think about what was replicable. I think the strength of those two teams is what could we replicate, not just for this moment. So we lived in that space around practices that could be replicated. They weren't what we usually did, they were new, but after we tried something new with the work, we talked about in our step back at the next meeting, what would you replicate with the new? So we had our sights on this current group making progress while thinking about what that could really feel like for students. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times teachers have the greatest ideas on how to try something new, but they need the space to think through it, implement it without feeling a sense of ridicule and knowing that they will be able to try it again, make a mistake, recover from it, and then see how it can be done even better the next time. And I think that safe space we created in the coaching dynamic was helpful. The team leads, my work with the team leads was really around helping to set the tone for the meeting so that you had a sense of what were the key priorities, helping them identify what the key priorities of the next meeting needed to be. How could they utilize the strengths of the team members to make sure the goal that we set was targeted more specifically by student, and that meant You have a small group of students, so, but you also have students on the margin in that small group that need support. So for instance, we had students, to Judith's point, who had multiple classes they needed to complete, right? But the progress gap was really the sense of self-efficacy, not believing they can handle all three of those courses. So the teachers, we had conversations, ask them which course you want to begin first, and then tackle that course, begin to make progress, let them see small wins, and then add on the second course. So developing that methodology, which is something that really wasn't considered in the past, freed them up to do that. And so that's just some of the creative ways we allow innovation around the goal that everybody shared to take place in a safe space, and think about, okay, if we were to do this with two other teams, what would that look like? And so we cared about the students who were on the margins, those students who particularly may not have found success without that kind of support, and who were the most difficult in that group to make progress, given unique set of circumstances, whether they were working or had to care for families at home, lack of technology. We considered them in the approach and looked at how they could make progress, and when they were making progress, see how that could be applied to them.
Thank you all for your initiatives and student achievement advancement. It's an excellent program as well. In terms of the comprehensive improvement plan, do you make any connections between the academic resources and the available funding to target their specific needs, for the students to achieve just that, whether it be taking some courses in a ladder format to complete, to graduate or to complete that curriculum?
You want to answer the high school question?
So I think when we're doing this work, in terms of resources, which is part of what you asked about, our goals were directly aligned to our school improvement plan goals, right? So every goal we set and everything we do in our school is strategically aligned to improving the ELA math graduation and attendance outcomes. Similarly, when we plan our fiscal year, everything in my school budget is also aligned to the best ability to leverage growth in those areas as well. So it was purposefully set with my executive coach, those goals, to ensure they align with the work we had already been doing.
Thank you.
And just all of our school improvement goals are also aligned to our capital goals.
Yeah.
So we know, each year there's a certain target that we have to meet, and then we backwards map to there. And then we use the school's data, their specific data, to determine the in-between. What do they have to grow this year so that they meet that cap goal, as we move out each year. So, this is our way of connecting all of those dots for people. So we're not doing one activity here, one activity there. So we're really making sure that we are aligned to, here's the targets for each school, and when you set your targets, you have to then develop an intervention plan. That's part of the school improvement plan. And this is a mechanism for, intervention.
Great, thank you.
They also helped at Green with how money was spent. Do you want to talk about
Yes. So we also had our Saturday Academy and our after-school tutoring. So some of these initiatives were incorporated into some of the curriculum and activities that we did after school and on Saturday. Most of our tutors were our certified teachers in the building. So if mostly the ones that were a part of the literacy community, they would come in and bring some of these initiatives in and, try to make it fun because it was Saturday, but it wasn't just something we did during the school day. It was incorporated into our after school program and during Saturday Academy.
The other question I did have was regarding, is the comprehensive improvement plan, is it included in the annual plan for improving student performance?
Yeah, the school improvement plans are developed annually, and everyone in the state, for all of our schools, all of that gets uploaded into the RIDE portal. So we're responsible for making sure we have school improvement plans. For our district, we have a school improvement plan or a comprehensive school improvement plan is the next level up. We're all on comprehensive school improvement plan, so really making sure we're going a level deeper to accelerate growth for our students.
Very good. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Um, I love this. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. My 8 years of being on the board and the finance committee, it's hard to see this line of people who are actually doing the job to come and talk about it. This is very impressive. I must be honest with you. That you're telling us how this is working. Because many times what we want to find out is what is it, this, what is that, and all that. But each of you said something different, which means in many ways it's impactful, this program. So I want to thank you so much to follow up with my colleague has said that thank you so much. A few questions I have, but I think some of them have been answered. Because when you began, you were saying that, and I was scared that you want to have 1.5 years in 1 year, at least for 1 year to achieve 1.5 years. So in the course of your presentation, you're not doing anything new. You're still doing the same curriculum. So my challenge is, how does that mean that what we've been doing in the past is wrong? Because if you're using the same system, you're using the same curriculum, you're using the same approach, you're not reinventing the wheel, you're not creating things, because I'm worried about if we're rushing our students because we want them to achieve 2 years within 1 year. So how do we, I guess my question is, how are we going to be able to do that, to make them use the same system, but achieve double of what should be achieved? I don't know if you get my question.
I do.
I want you to please educate me on that. Because the only way I would think that we can achieve more is if we're doing double of what we do. We're doing the same thing, but we're now achieving double of what we do. How do we get there?
It's a really good question, and I'm going to try not to go too far down the rabbit hole because I can talk about this for hours. But what I will say is, one of the big differences, let's start off with the fact that we didn't have unified curriculum in the district, and it wasn't at a rigorous high level. So what was happening prior is when you have students that are below grade level in their academic levels, the tendency is always to teach below that level. So if a student is in 5th grade, but they're constantly being given books to read that are at a 3rd grade level or a 2nd grade level, they're not going to grow fast, and it's going to keep them behind. And then each year they go further behind. So it's not as though they don't have the potential to grow at this faster rate. But if you're only teaching low level materials, they're not going to achieve it at higher levels. Somebody doesn't have to read at a 3rd grade level to understand a conversation. They can start, understanding concepts and theories and think through things and have good discussions. The more you do those high level activities, the faster their growth is going to happen. So it happens like what they call it is a J curve. So you start with them down at this low level, but as soon as when students start reading at a certain level, it just grows exponentially. You don't have to relearn all of that, and then you're reading to learn, not learning to read. Once we get the students out of that mode, so then their growth accelerates, because now you just think if you're in an English class, that's where you think about reading. But guess what? I have to read in science, I have to read in history, I have to read in math, I have to write in all of those subjects. So that's why it's so important. And we also have to focus on the right data. So when students are assessed, they're assessed on an exit ticket or an assessment or a midterm exam. If we're not using all of that data to say, these 5 students they were disconnected. We know we have to do something different for these 5 students. Those are some of the missing pieces that we didn't have here before. This real focus on each week, we're looking at data. It's relentless pursuit of student work. We look at it and we make decisions, and that's what this process is. It's about really focusing in on the day-to-day and where the students are.
You have two more questions. And I got sold. I'm so sorry. So that explanation is very, very, it makes sense to me. So the other question I have is that no matter how beautiful the program is, there'll be challenges. You've given us a good picture about good part of it. What are the challenges? What are the areas of improvement of this program? Is that because it's 100%, nothing to fix, no challenge, nothing at all?
No, I would say that it started off challenging for
Yes.
everyone
Yeah.
about wanting to participate.
Yes, and I think the major thing we had to be strategic about was timing of when it started and just making sure that the teams could see an outcome. Like the teachers were kind of on the same page as the students. Oh, you want us to do something new? I was like, no, I don't want you to do anything new. I want us to look at not necessarily better, but look at this in a different way. Yes, we've been doing this curriculum. You've been doing it longer than probably I've been here. But at the same time, how are we going to meet this goal? And how are we going to improve what you're already doing? And I did get a little pushback about, well, I'm already conferencing. Yes, but are we making sure we're conferencing and supporting the correct students? How are you handling your multilingual language students? How are you handling those students that have IEP support? Are you making sure that, yes, they get pull-out support or push-in support, but are you also making sure that small group is supporting what they need as well? And it challenged me to have those hard conversations, even though I too was learning the program in conjunction with doing this as well, but it also helped me understand the right kind of questions to ask. So no, it wasn't all right, because like I said, I had some of the meetings out at bus duty because that's when my time, and the coaches were flexible with that. There was no, condemnation, like when can you meet? And this is when I can meet right now, and this is when we can have this conversation. And some teachers got on board faster than others, but once everybody understood where we were going, it was easier to get them to see, okay, it's not something new. It's what we've already been doing. It's just a different way of doing it to get to the goal.
And if I can speak to the high school experience, anybody who's worked in the high school knows high school teachers are very set in their ways.
Yes.
And they don't like to change how they do things. They don't like people coming into their world and telling them how to do it. And so when we created the structure in our building with my coach, it really was, these are teams that currently exist. And my team's response was, well, we're already doing the work. Why do we need someone else to come and look at what we're doing? And I said, we're going to give it a try because we want to talk about efficiency. We got to make your job easier. We're going to help provide you technical support. And we know the goals we've set for the year are reach goals. And how do we get to reach goals without setting intermediate goals? And so working with the coaches, setting micro goals that were easy to win at first, and winning people over strategically by saying, look at how much you exceeded that first goal by. We can do more. And then we accelerated not just the student performance, but the teacher goal setting, right? By giving them small wins up front, we were able to push them more and more as the year went on. And I will tell you, I got more work out of adults in my building than I have ever seen because of the goals they set for themselves. They owned the goals and therefore they wanted the work to happen.
And the kids saw wins. The kids were leveling up in the literacy program and, going from level to level. They were celebrating. Their names were going on the wall. It was just fun to see that too.
Thank you. My last question. This is beautiful. And we're doing this for the students. The only testimony that I got is from the principal EQ that mentioned a lady, a girl who's next. But I think if we have testimonies from the students who are actually the ultimate benefactors of this, I think it will be like, I don't know how to
Fortify.
okay, thank you for that boring with that English. But I think if you have that, so if you have testimonies from children, from students who are actually benefactors of this, who are seeing the difference, it will make a lot more sense. It will let us know that yes, this is working. Because when I look at the amount of the budget, 6.8 million, and we're spending this for the benefits of the students. We've heard from DMG who is providing the services, school leaders who are coaching, and the teachers, the testimonies from the teachers. But it will also be good if we have testimonies from the students themselves saying that this, I like this. These are the things, because there will just be also, like you mentioned it, there will be challenges, there will be areas of improvement and everything. So if we know where they're coming up from, I think when you go back to your respective schools, I respectfully ask that you try to kind of do like a survey and say, how are you feeling about this? What's your reception? What are your responses? It will help in making sure that we're doing the right thing all the time. I don't know if that is too much to ask.
Not at all.
Now I'm asking, humbly asking that.
We'll definitely get you some student testimony.
I think we can also, if we do get this contract, we can also incorporate that in throughout the year. I think that's a really strong suggestion.
We would like on a quarterly basis, let them come to this school board meeting and tell them, oh, we're doing good and all that, You're not wasting our time, because that's what we're here for, to make sure that we do it the right way and get the right results. Thank you so much again. God bless you. Any other questions?
The last question I had was regarding, when will the examining data actually be available, or is it already available for prior school year?
Yes, so if you look on page 4, for example, you can see, you can see the results that we got from the students that were in the program as the first column. So if we look at 3rd grade writing, for example, that is one of our key benchmarks. Kindergarten, 3rd grade, 8th grade. So it's really important that we hit those marks where we get the students on grade level. You can see students made 63% growth that were in this program versus 4% for students that were not. So, and you can see in our 5th grade, we had decreases in both areas, and this is the group that we know we have to rethink what we're doing. We already met with the middle school principals at the end of this year, and went over this with them, that we have to really make a strong plan for those 6th graders in the next year. If you go over to page 6, for example, when we look at the high school results, the PSAT to SAT ELA growth that Principal Judah was speaking to, we had 69-point gains versus 27-point gains. I mean, those are significant numbers. And again, this is not changing curriculum. The assessments were part of the curricular assessment. You didn't add different assessments. But if you are very strategic about how you plan, and this is perfectly in line with the additional planning time that we have in our new contract next year, so that we have 90 minutes every other week with our staff. Guess what we're going to be focusing on is our data.
Very good, thank you. I have no further questions.
We have a motion to recommend this.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Any abstentions? Any positions? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Okay, careful, this is yeah.
Ed Mark with the program.
Good evening. So, good, how are you? I have the next 8 contracts, so we're gonna be on this side of the room. We're gonna be on this side of the room. So this is Dr. Conley. Dr. Conley is our Executive Director of Specialized Instruction, and she will be sharing Mark and the Start Autism Support. Is it okay with you if we go out of context? Because then I have the rest of the others. Is that okay? So we'll have you do those 2.
My first request is for the reading program. This is a highly specialized reading program for students with disabilities. It teaches them 300 sight words, the Dolch sight words, which are challenging for many students to learn. In addition, it teaches them comprehension.
It's a fantastic resource, widely used across the state and nationwide. I'd like to use federal COVID relief funds that were specifically designated for students with disabilities to invest in this program for the district. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
First of all, appreciate all the work that you're doing, especially with students. Have several family members, students who are special needs. So it's very near and dear to my heart. So I appreciate all this work. Will the high frequency lessons be a daily part of the phonic lessons for these students?
The Deutsch sight words are irregular sight words that you really can't phonetically decode. So the way this program is taught to students with disabilities is what's called errorless. There's a lot of repetition. They learn one word per lesson. When they move on to the next lesson, the first word is redone over and over and over again. So they're constantly getting refreshers on all of the sight words. And in addition, it has comprehension built in because we have a lot of students with disabilities, particularly students with autism, who can become excellent readers, but they're not understanding what they're reading. So it is, like I said, highly specialized. It only does those 300 sight words, and it's different than decoding. So it's compatible with decoding programs because it's targeting two different areas of reading.
Thank you. I don't know other questions.
Me too. Just thank you for bringing this and having. The only question I have is that when you mentioned 300, is that the one that's divided into 150 and 150?
Oh, no, we're running 150 kids or 150 teachers. We're trying to focus on all the special ed teachers at the elementary level. There's typically 300, you can look them up, Deutsch sight words. And they're high frequency words that are used like to, TO, TOO, TWO, those type of words is what the program teaches. So it's ideally, it'll be done pretty quickly. Once kids finish, they finish. It'll be done more in the early elementary levels, but we certainly have kids with disabilities that may be doing it in the upper grades.
You think what we have now should be able to cover all our students?
In the K through 5 special ed, that's what I targeted. We also, I should mention, purchased a separate kit with functional sight words like walk, don't walk, stop, danger. That'll be used at the upper grade levels for students with the most significant disabilities. So I think this is a good start. I think we'll we need to supplement later on. Certainly we'll lose kids or, they'll get, with kids using all kinds of things happen to them. We'll need a replenishment program, but I think this is an excellent way to spend these resources.
Great. Do you have a motion to recommend this?
Someone?
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any position that has educated age?
We're gonna, if it's okay, we're gonna go to 4.10. So Dr. Conley can have it. It's the STAR autism support, same thing.
I respectfully request your approval for the STAR Autism Program. This is a program that targets our most significant students with disabilities, students that take the alternate assessment. It's 1% of our population, typically students with autism or multiple handicaps. The STAR Autism Program is a comprehensive program that teaches them pre-readiness skills such as communication, following a routine, independent schedules, socialization, how to use, play opportunities. This proposal is for professional development as well as a kit of materials that all the teachers will use. Every single student will have a student data book. There's 3 levels to the kit. If kids are able to complete the kit, ideally pre-K, K1, they are ready to go to kindergarten, to be independent, to follow directions. It uses the principles of applied behavior analysis, which is a highly specific way to teach students with disabilities. I've used this program previously in my career with a high rate of success and having many students that were able to maintain maximum independence in schools. I am just introducing this to the district now. This is something I think we're going to need to do 2 or 3 years of training to support across the district. There's also a transition planning component to it. This is teaching our kids with disabilities how to work at jobs in the community, how to take the bus independently, that I'll likely come back to later on for approval on, but this is what I'd like to start with. And as with Edmark, we'd be using federal funds, COVID relief funds specific for students with disabilities.
Yes, in regards to the in-class consultations, the 25 in-class consultations, what will that involve?
Sure. The way it's set up, there's 2 full days of training that's done for all the teachers. Eventually, I'd like to have the TAs and speech language therapists, occupational therapists participate in that as well. We haven't targeted that for this year. After that 2-day training, a STAR trainer comes out to the district, spends 5 full days going out to the classrooms and supporting the teachers. However, it's like coaching, however they need support. Sometimes they're having trouble juggling a schedule, or they have a question about, teaching a specific skill, or they're wondering about their data collection. So that trainer will go out and spend time with each of the teachers, implementing the program to help problem solve within the classroom. So that would be spread out across 35 classrooms in the district.
Thank you. Yes, next questions. I appreciate that.
You answer my question in terms of, I was going to ask, this is a new one, but you said you used to it.
Yes.
Because you're recommending it.
Yes.
Cool. I have no further question. Madam Chair, I recommend it.
So,
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any positions for ice cream? Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
Stuck with me now for the next 6 contracts. Sandra Stewart, Chief Student Support Service Officer for PPSD. I'm going to start first with 4.7, which is Educated Edge. This contract is for the amount of $567,000. It would be to support restorative practice coaching, and it would be coaching at all of our middle and high schools. And starting, the contract would start on August 1st, which would be a lot of our, planning sessions with the vendor. And then it would run all the way to the end of the next school year, which would be June of 24. As you know, the need for this is there. As one of the, reports which we had completed in 2019, the famous Johns Hopkins report, it listed that, a lot of, students and families at schools really feel that they don't have a sense of belonging. Also, a very poor school culture, which has led to attendance, which is another major challenge for us. In the actual TAP, we do have a TAP goal centered around attendance and culture. And one of the things that is actually called out there directly calls out coaching and professional development in restorative practices. I am very lucky to be in this room with Dr. Onye, who brought restorative practices to our district. And so I want to build upon the great work that she started many years ago. It seems like, how many years ago, Dr. Onye? When we first brought restorative, I know I'm outdating myself too, yeah.
2017.
2017. So anyway, Educated Edge is a company that we have used for this work since 2017. And it's a company that is really centered around youth and adult-centered in restorative practices. And she is a returning partner. One of the things that I really enjoy with working with this partner is she really helps personalize what we need for our district. She's also very flexible. During our return back from COVID, she really helped us, redo some of our trainings virtually, which was something, that we've never done with practice, restorative, or never had to do before. So one of the things that I really do like about working with her is that she really is a true partner and really collaborates and meets our needs. Secondly, we did a little pilot of this year. So over the years, we've been trying to build capacity amongst our faculty and staff who are trained in restorative practices. This past year, we really did a push around administrators, principals, APs, because we know it starts with them in their building and how this would get rolled out. We then trained our school psychologists, school counselors, school social workers, and our brand new behavior interventionists. And that's on top of culture coordinators and specialists. So as you can see, that phase of really building the capacity at each of the schools. This now is really our second phase. So this would now encompass is she would be providing administrative implementation workshops. What that means is really working with the principal at the school and helping them determine who their RP leadership team would be. And we've kind of given them a little jump start on that because we already trained a lot of members who would most likely serve on that team. They would also be understanding on how they can incorporate some of this work into their school improvement plans, which we heard a little bit about today. They would be also helping really set goals around how they would implement this. So how would they get the entire building, trained at their school? What this would look like at their school. Also, part of this is also helping schools build those positive relationships, which I think we all know is so important. And the other piece that I really like about this particular contract, it would provide that hands-on, side-by-side coaching from the consultant who would work at the school with the actual teachers and those who are implementing. There are two major pieces of it. It would be around circles, and it would also be, those would be kind of restorative conversations. And then it would also be around conferences, which is usually utilized for high risk infractions when they're trying to bring that person back into the community. So it would be around those areas. One of the things we've heard from schools is that they really need support in seeing how it would work in their building and implementing it at their building, which this would address. And then one of the things that we also heard from the two pilot schools this year is they found it really helpful in moving the work forward, having those meetings with her routinely and setting up those sessions, which you can see here. It would be one-to-one teacher practitioner coaching, which was about 90 educators with a rotation every 4 weeks. And those lessons would be around 8 per school for a total of 120 total lessons. So I have it laid out here for you. And this contract would be paid out of our Project Aware grant, which is great, and which will expire soon. So I don't know if Dr. Anya wants to add anything about some of the initial work done and how this builds upon it, but
the vision was always to have restorative teams at the school level, and to have this idea about sustaining was really about building that culture at the school level so that schools would actually create those communities. And that it wasn't just about focusing on students, but it was focusing on the whole community. So the adults as well. So for example, conferences may actually be conferences that occur between an adult and student.
or an adult and adult.
Or an adult and adult.
We've had some
We've seen
those.
it works beautifully,
Yeah.
but it requires some great skill. And so I think that Sandy's plan to implement actually brings full circle the initial plan, which was really to get it at the school level and have the schools build it slowly, not too quickly, but slowly, because it takes a lot. It's a different way of thinking, right? Rather than suspending students or reprimanding teachers or adults, it's about bringing people together in a structured way with some very specific questions and having some conversations so that there's a shared understanding, which helps to kind of build a better relationship and hopefully changes the behavior. So the goal is about changing behavior, it's not about punishing. So we know the suspensions, removals, dismissals, all of those things just serve to sometimes temporarily make a change, but it doesn't actually do what we want, because it's changing the behavior.
That's true.
So this is really an extension of the great work that was started many years ago, and really excited about bringing this piece and having that coaching piece, so
And Melissa's amazing.
she is amazing. Everyone who she works with, I get phenomenal feedback. Even all the training she does, it's always very, very positive. Which we the next contract. Got a couple restorative pieces on it too.
The only question I had was regarding, are any of these skill sessions and trainings, are any of these recorded?
No, but what she did do for us a couple years, I think it was 2 years ago, when with COVID, she actually put them as webinars, and she actually put them so that way. So I actually have it as at the district level where I can actually give it to someone as a webinar and they can watch it. It's best done in person. The experience is amazing. I was lucky enough to be a part of that work in 2017 when Dr. Onye brought it in, and the experience that you get in participating, it really is great in person. But unfortunately, we were in a situation and we had to do what we had to do, but it's great to have it. Because if you have anybody new in your, at your school who comes in and there's already been training, like it's another option. So she was wonderful to do that for us and put that together. And that year she actually did hours, like some, like hours where people could drop in and ask questions or whatnot. So yes, there is a component to that piece.
Thank you. I got no other questions.
Dr. Ryan, do you have a motion to recommend this?
Yes.
We'll move to support. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any oppositions? The ayes have it.
So the next contract is another one with Educated Edge. So part of the restorative practices, being able to implement it, you need to be trained.
Yeah.
So this contract would support the training. It is for $59,700. The good news is that over the years, we have really built capacity amongst the district. But as we know, we have a lot of new staff that, come. And so this contract for this training would particularly focus on our school administrators, any new principals, APs, school support team members, so anyone like that come in, like our behavior interventionists, anyone new, school psychologists. We are in the process of hiring many additional social workers, so they would also be trained, our counselors, any new culture coordinators, specialists. And basically, we have training that is running from August all the way till November to have anyone new to the district come on board and be trained to again continue that building that capacity. So once they get to middle and high school, they'll be able to support and be part of that leadership team. We have not brought this down yet to elementary. Just so you know, I'm sure that might be a question. We're not there yet. We're really trying to concentrate, although I should say in 2017 we did, because I was trained as part of that elementary, but in the work that Melissa did last year and this year, the main focus has been middle and high. But we do want to obviously bring it down to elementary. Yeah, yes. So this would be for $59,700, and this is going to be coming out of our ESSER dollars.
The only question, I did review the company, they had excellent ratings, leading trainer in this discipline with excellent reviews. I was pleased about that.
Yes, she has extensive training. She has worked, she has been IRP trained. She has done extensive work in behavior. I mean, she's amazing.
She also worked in the district. That's how I actually met her.
Okay.
And she was a director in one of our small schools when it's no longer, she's been in the school, what was that?
Evolution.
Yes. So she was one of the directors at Evolutions. And that's where she left to start her own consulting business. And the thing I think is really important about her is that she's IIRP certified. She's certified national, so she is well equipped to do this. And anyone that she trains, one of the reasons I picked her in 2017 is anyone she trains also gets IRP certification as well. So then you can build that capacity, and then eventually she talks herself out of the job.
Which is going to be the next contract. But one of the great things she's done is she works all over, as Dr. O'Neill said, all over the country. But the work that she does here is really close and near and dear to her heart. And so she has not engaged in some other contracts in hopes that she would get this contract so she could really be here to fully support. Because as you can see, It's almost like having her, she'd be almost like full time. So she really has committed to really wanting to see this work move forward and feels very close to this work, which I think is great.
I was very impressed with that. Other than that, I don't have any other comments or
So
questions.
we have a motion to recommend this vote.
So,
Support that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? The position has carried.
Okay, the next contract is the IIRP, which is putting Melissa a little bit out of her job a little bit, but not really, because we'll always utilize her for a lot of the, consulting and coaching work. However, I do want to build capacity within our own district and have our own trainers. It is really important that, we have our own trainers and follow a very similar model that I use for CPI, which is our contract that we have in training that we do around de-escalation and restraint. So we would follow the very same model. So this would not exceed anything more than $65,000. And what we would do is we would train 10 of our district members who would be IIRP train the trainers. So what Melissa is coming out to do for us, we would have our own in-district, in-house to really help support that work. So that way, as new employees come on, we can continue that same practice. So if you go to the last page, you'll see it's a very comprehensive program. They offer it either in person or you can do it online, which is great. But basically, this would cover the cost of 3 of the texts that they utilize. It would also cover the restorative practices course and the conferencing course. Once they take those courses, then they're eligible to then take the train the trainer. So there are prerequisites that have to happen before they can actually take the train the trainer. And then they also have to be practicing and showing that they're practicing these skills prior to taking that. So this is a little bit long of a process, which is why I wanted to contract with Melissa to get us through, because it probably will take us all year to be able to get our own staff trained. One of the other things also in the contract, the coaching one, is she has agreed to coach this team in helping them implement, because one of the things I love is the style and the way she, her agenda for the training that she does is great. And so I want to make sure that that's replicated because it's been so successful. So she has agreed to support our team in, having them providing feedback, having them come to her sessions, so that way they can see how she really implements it, which I think will be valuable for this team as, to be new. So right now we're compiling of what that team should look like, but we're thinking around some of our, we have our behavior program, so some of our staff from the behavior program would be trained. We have Mr. Gallo, who oversees a venture, who does a lot of restorative work. So we have we want to do a well-rounded team to really support the work and move forward. So this contract is for the, and it's also covered under the Project Aware grant.
My question is about how you're going to select the 10 when you choose.
Yeah.
What's the criteria?
So we want to make sure that I was kind of talking about that. We want to make sure that they're well-rounded. So for example, Mr. Gallo does a lot of work already at a venture as part of the restorative. So I think he definitely would be a trainer. Also, as part of our specialized instruction program, we have a behavior program and we have a manager that supports that work. So I also like to have him trained. I also would like to see, we have a few behavior coaches in the district, like to see them. I also like to see some of our school social workers or counselors. So I want the team to be reflective of the different groups that would most likely be doing the majority of the training. So we're kind of in that planning stage now. And part of this work also will be folded into our MTSS. So next week, we'll hopefully have our policy approved. And so we'll also be implementing this as part of our MTSS process, also as one of the tiered interventions. Yeah.
That's my question.
So in essence, basically, this is an introductory two-day training, so you can have
It's actually more
in-house.
than that. It's very comprehensive. So they would have to do, 2 courses. They would be doing 2 courses. And then after the course, then they take the train the trainer. So they don't allow them to get into the train the trainer, until that happens. And then it would be train the trainer around circles and then train the trainer for conferences, which is what we do now. And, but they require a lot of, online coursework first, plus, being able to show that they can, they can do the circles and also do the conferencing in action and have experience with that before they can even get into the train the trainer. And then I also had put a little bit here for travel and consultant. I'm not sure, I think it's virtual, but they do offer an option where a trainer can come and, I did do that with CPI because we had so many members, but I wasn't able to get in touch with them for a quote, so I kind of roughed about what it was for CPI. I might not need it, but just in case, I wanted to make sure I had a little cushion, yeah.
I have no other questions.
We have a motion to recommend for passage.
So then,
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposition? The ayes have it.
Okay.
Gloria.
So as part of our Office of Multilingual Learners, we are trying to build our own ESOL certification program. I think we maybe mentioned this a couple times. If we are currently in the process of applying for that honor from RIDE. Just so we are aware, if we are given this, we would be one of the only districts, I believe in the entire state, that would have their own certification program to certify teachers to become MLL certified, which is incredible. As you know, that's one of our TAC goals. As you know, that's part of some of the components of our DOJ agreement. So there's a lot of different pieces. So in preparation for that, because our goal is to really start that in the fall, pending approval, what we want to do as part of our application and part of the practice that they will engage in is we want the teachers to do a lot with self-reflection. So what that might mean is taping themselves as they're doing lessons, with their coach. But one of the great things about this program is that you can actually stop and timestamp. So when the coach or the instructor is giving the teacher feedback, they know exactly at what moment that they were, in their lesson where they are commenting. So again, this will speak to all of our management systems that we have here in PPSD. And if you go to the last page, it breaks it up. We're asking for about 80 users. We're not sure how many we will have in the program. Our initial application was for 75. I'm not sure if that will be approved because we're still waiting for approval, but just in case. So it'll be around the training support. Also because we want to fast track and get the program running in the fall, we needed to put in a piece for some kind of, we called it the express implementation, but that kind of quick start in the goal. And then also the video storage, which they gave us for free, and the training was free. And then they also actually gave us a discount that we asked there. And so this contract is for $5,780. And this was also as part of our ESSER proposals. So this would come out of our ESSER dollars.
Awesome. Any question?
Just regarding the education discount, it's pretty significant. It's almost 40% of the contract. Is that based on the number of users? Is that based on
Yes.
other factors?
Yes, and the one thing that we also thought was great about them, which doesn't always happen with every contract, they gave us free training and support. That was great. Because a lot of companies, include that, and so that was great that they added that for us too. And this is a new contract for us. This is a new platform. We've never had a program like the ESOL, so this will be interesting to utilize. Yeah.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
We have a motion to recommend.
So moved.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposition? The ayes have it.
Okay, next one, yes, bridges to academic success, again, out of our Office of Multilingual Learners. This could go up to $31,500. This is to support, this is a renewal contract, so you've already approved this before. We've already utilized this vendor. This is a resource for our psych students, or our students who are brand new into the country, who have some kind of interrupted education. A lot of our students who come in have some kind of missing skills around literacy and math. And so this will really help support and provide them resources in order for them to be successful. And the reason we use this as a sole source, to remind you, is we did put this out to RFP. We didn't have any bids. This is, something that's very specific. This company created this curriculum very specific for this population. And so that's why we use them as sole source. So again, this would be the Bridges Newcomer ELA, ELD Math, and PD packages. And that would be at $31,500. And I believe this comes out of our title money. Chris, am I correct that the Bridges, I think, comes out of our Title 3, right? Yes. I think so.
Thank you. I think it's a great contract. I think it's important that we affirm to our students, refugees and immigrants that, safe and supportive learning environment.
And those numbers are growing of our population.
Yes.
Alone this year, we had at least, we doubled, I think, before December, the amount of students we had gotten last year. So it's a very growing population for us as a district, so.
Is any of this coaching, is it going to be like one-on-one classes for
No,
the children?
the teachers utilize it in the classroom, so it's a resource that they use in the classroom to support that work, yeah. Yeah, this doesn't come with a consultant or anything like that, this is just the program that they help support, it's a resource, yes.
I have no other questions.
What is the CUNY?
Can you tell me the page?
City University.
Yes,
City
State University Junior.
So that's designed by Cunningham.
Yes,
Is
it's
Bridges using that program?
it's a very specific, and again, because they created this to support their population. In New York, as you know, they also have a very fast growing population, and this was actually a recommendation from the commissioner who had used this in New York, and that's how we learned about them and started utilizing them. I think we started last year, if I'm not mistaken, utilizing Bridges.
Okay. As long as
Yeah,
we're using a program that has been tested and trusted,
yeah.
that's what is important. All right, we have a motion to recommend this for passage.
So moved.
I support that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposition for ASCAR? Effective.
Okay, last one. So again, this contract is really district-wide. However, it is a shared effort between student support services, really. It lives with our Office of Multilingual Learners, but we know that the entire district utilizes these services. Just to remind you, these are the services around translation and interpretation. And one of the things that has been great this year is that we have seen an immense increase in the usage, which is fabulous. And we're so excited about that. We're seeing the most usage in special ed. And the reason we're coming back and asking for $850,000 is because we have upticks all throughout the year. At the end of the year, we have a lot of celebrations where, we obviously have interpreters. Also, at the end of the year, we're finalizing a lot of IEPs, so a lot of IEPs are translated because we provide that translated IEP to families. So this is why our usage has really gone up. And so every month, we're trying to see, where those valleys and peaks are, where we're seeing high usages and low numbers. But again, at the end of this year, we have had high numbers. I wanted to also show you, if I could direct you to the last couple pages. The last time we were here was in May. And when we were here, you had asked to see how much it cost So this is the piece that we added to that. You'll see that we have the interpreting, so the in-person interpreting service, how much they charge us. And then the last page, second to last page, you'll see the translation and how much they charge per word. Do you have it? It's on here?
No.
No? Oh, okay. I'm gonna actually give you this one. Would you mind? Sorry, I thought it was connected to that. I apologize, but I can have, sorry. I thought it was in there. If you wanna actually add this too, this is the cancellation, because it talks about the fee too, but.
Yeah. You don't need a copy.
And so just a reminder that this provides services for over 350 languages in the district, plus sign language also. And so we've been utilizing them, and this supports directly, I think it was last year, the board approved our first translation interpretation policy that we've ever had in PBSD. So this would obviously support that work.
So my question is, are we paying for this in arrears? Because this is 2023 and up to June 30, 2023. Are we looking, is this wrong? Or are you supposed to?
Nope, that is correct. So we've had some upticks in some of the actual services. And so we're making amendment because we, at the time, the ones that we were coming, it wasn't enough to pay for the services that we were using for that month. That's why we're coming for the entire piece now.
So the 850,000 is money that has been spent. Is that what you're
Yes, yes,
saying? And it's spent, okay.
yes.
June 30.
Yes. Yes. So now that we have a complete year, we kind of know exactly what it's gonna cost. Last year, the usage wasn't as high as it is this year. So now that we've had a really full year with a robust time of people really utilizing it, now next year we'll have a better idea of actually how much to make the contract versus having to come to you for amendments consistently. So just to give you a little idea, since the last time we were here, we upped it, which was from May. It was like around $350,000 since May. It cost us from May till the end of the school year for all. And again, that's because of the huge upticks. So
I still don't get it. So this 850 is the money that has been spent that we now approve it retroactively.
yes,
Because it's an amendment, so it's not anything into the future.
correct. You already approved that future one last month.
Okay.
Yeah, this was for the additional services that was provided. We didn't have enough in the initial amendment we came to you, so we have to add. Yeah,
So this is
I think
essentially
what,
an
Chair, if I
overrun.
may, I think that's where it's confusing is on page one, it's checked off on FY '24, it should be checked
Oh,
off on
I-
FY '23.
yes, yes,
Oh, that's what I was.
Confused.
yes,
Because I
sorry.
mean, this is kind of confusing.
Yes.
That's why 24, we're looking at June, up to June 30.
It's the wrong check is on the first page, which should be checked.
Sorry about that.
We need to fix that.
I'm gonna
We will
fix it, yeah,
fix it for the,
sorry.
Okay. All right, you have a question?
She must have used the same one because we went last month for the winter last year.
Some research I did on this company, there were some questions regarding screen freezing up and uploading issues. Has the district experienced any of those issues with the firewalls working effectively?
I have
On the
not,
Scorpion or the app?
the only, not to my understanding, the only thing we have gotten feedback, which we've worked with the company and they've been great with, is sometimes the quick turnaround of things. But we've also had to explain to schools that we also can't send something 2 days before and to want it, right? Like we do have some express services that they will do for us, but they have to also be timely. So that has been something that I've gotten feedback, like they've sent something, they've had to wait a little, longer than they thought. So we've worked with the company on that and that seemed to have gotten better. That was something more, I would say late fall. Again, it goes in peaks. We also now know when it's going to be their most busiest time for interpretation, like conference and time, graduation ceremonies, things like that. So we've worked with them ahead of time and give them those so they can have the staff, extra staff there to support those peak times. So those have been most of it, not so much of the
Those types of issues.
those types. But one of the things that is great about them is they actually, if we're doing a virtual meeting, they actually come in and will be present virtually live versus our Lion Bridge, which does not do that. That's just phone over phone. So this is a great piece to that.
Thank you. I have no comments.
Do we have a motion to recommend this for passage?
So moved.
Mr. Walker, all in favor?
Aye.
Any oppositions? Any oppositions? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Non-violent schools of Rhode Island.
Good afternoon. I've got a beef sandwich, we're the last one standing between you and dinner, so I'm gonna try to be as efficient as possible. Denisha's our new program coordinator, and she's passing out a folder that I put together because we wanted to make sure that we had some context around this. I know that, especially since we have some new board members. So for nonviolent schools in Rhode Island, I want to take us back to when we started, when we reopened up the Office of Equity when I came on board in July. I think I've met you in the past and talked about how we focused on 3 major stakeholders, our administrators, our teachers, and our students. And in working with our students, we created what we call the Respect Conference. We met with students in every middle and high school 3 times at the Marriott. And the focus for these students was to create, number one, to understand what it means, what equity means, what advocacy means, what diversity means, and to challenge them to think about things that were concerning them in their school or immediate community, and to come up with action projects. And then to work on those projects throughout the year, which they did, and it culminated into a final conference in May at the Marriott, where they actually presented their action projects, what worked well, what the challenges were, and how they were going to continue. And some of that work, much of that work will continue this year. We're having an academy for the first time. We're calling it the Respect Equity Leadership Academy from the 15th until the 25th of August, and it will be at Brown University. Brown University, by the way, they were looking for space. And because they were intrigued by project, were excited about it, they decided to fund the whole thing for us. So they're giving us space, and they're feeding the students breakfast, lunch, and snacks. And all we had to do was pay the custodial fees, which was $1,000. So we thought that was a pretty great bargain. Because our focus also was college and career readiness, and we wanted to get them on a college campus. So we were specifically looking for a way to get them on campus. So part of this, part of those action projects, there are some schools that were under-resourced, and they did not have a lot of resources to actually enact their projects. And one of them was JSEC. They wanted to put together a peer mediation program. They did not have the funds to do so. They were concerned about a lot of the bad behaviors that were happening at their school and around their community. And so they felt that it was important to start a peer mediation program. They also felt it was important for the faculty and staff to be trained around what it means to have a peer mediation program and what it means to have a culture of peace in which everyone feels a sense of belonging. And so Nonviolent Schools Rhode Island is an organization that is already doing work in the district, most recently at Gilbert-Stuart Middle School. This is their expertise, and they focus specifically on Kingian principles of nonviolence. So they began working with JSEC. In the meantime, we were preparing for this Equity Leadership Academy, which is starting in August, and it's going to go all the way through June. And so they will also be helping to support during the academy with training, leadership training for the students for 4 days. They will also be checking in with students throughout the year and then providing some of the training when we meet in those conferences over the next school year. So we'll be repeating the conferences, we're ratcheting it up, we're going deeper with the learning. It'll be really focused on our leadership principles, and they will be assisting with that. So they're working with JSEC specifically, but they're also working with our Equity Student Leadership Academy, as well as the Equity Student Leadership Conferences, which will be occurring throughout the school year. So that's the contract you have in front of you. I wanted to give you that context so you would see that this is a spiraling and ongoing work that we're doing, which is going to connect directly to the next contract which will focus on some of our adults. So I don't know if you have any questions for me. I know there's a lot in that red packet. We'd like you to take a look at it, though, because there's a lot happening. And I think it's really good work, particularly what students are saying and the projects they're coming up with, and the work that we have 43 students who signed up for this academy. We told them we were going to give them something at the end of the academy. They don't know what they're getting at all, but they are really excited about coming to Brown for those 9 days, full time, from 9 until 2:30 for 9 days at Brown. I don't know if you guys have, I didn't introduce my folks. This is Denasia, she's the program coordinator. And this is Dr. Diaz, she's our Title IX officer. And she's also, they're both part of the Equity and Belonging Office.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So my question is, so we have this beautiful agreement with Brown University. Are we going to have that throughout this year, or just for this 9 days?
That's interesting that you say that. So we are, so Denasia just graduated from Brown, by the way. She just got her master's degree. And she has some cool connections. So I don't know, Denasia, if you want to talk about the space we'll be using hopefully throughout the year.
Yeah, so as part of my studies at Brown, I studied at the School of Professional Studies, and we are housed in what's considered to be CIC, which is a co-working space that serves the Brown University Professional Studies degree recipients as well as the public community. And so something that we've been able to do is establish contact with them with the hope that we'll be able to eventually get a membership and utilize their space in the future for our conferences. We actually connected with them last week and were able to verify their calendar schedule in the hope that they'll be able to insert our students there. And so in that way, we'd be redirecting our students back to the Brown campus throughout the year so they'll be able to access those resources as well.
The Marriott was amazing. The students loved the Marriott. That's what we used last year. But the Marriott is extraordinarily expensive. We just can't afford it. And we just think it's better for them to be at a university. So we're just waiting for them to give us the cost for the membership, and it's going to be a go. And they're also checking our dates against their dates to make sure they have space for us. But we're pretty positive that we're going to be able to use that space. There's plenty of parking. It's like 5 or 7 minutes from this building, which means it's not necessarily too far from the others. And so that's where we plan to be this year.
Excellent. Thank you. The other question I have is that this is ineligible. I can't seem to read it. It's so tiny.
I don't know how to work it. That's the way that box works.
I
Yeah.
think the PDF automatically.
Yeah, shrinks it.
Shrinks.
I even my bifocals.
I hope it's not the kind of, like when you sign the contract.
I don't know what
You're
you do
offering
about
chip
that.
in.
Chair, is there anything?
All right. I hope it's not like, okay.
It happened on mine too, I didn't know how to
I
change
mean,
it.
we could just attach another Word document that has it like.
There was a program that I was going to work with one of our executive directors that left with Brown in terms of mentoring program. Is there a way we can connect this type of program with that?
So yes, it's interesting that you say that. We have something in the works. So another bucket of work that we're focused on are specifically male leaders. We're focusing on our young men, our Black and brown young boys, K through 12, but particularly 5 through 12 for now. We have a gentleman's academy at Leadington. We have a gentleman's academy at 360 High School. The assistant principals in each of those schools have taken it upon themselves to create this opportunity for young men. And so we decided to start with them since they're already existing and support them. One thing we did just a couple of months ago, we went to the Marriott. We funded their award ceremony at the Marriott, and we had the families come with their young men to the Marriott, and they received awards. They were very excited about coming in there. It felt very important. They spoke, if you heard the comments they made about being part of this, it's a mentoring program. And we had elementary school students there as young as 4th grade, and then we had high school students there, and also alumni. young men who had graduated high school who came back for the ceremony. So we met with the two assistant principals, Martin Quirk and Rich Norris. We just met with them last week, and we're going to be doing work with them this year as well to start, to see how we can build that out and create more of those mentoring programs. And we also want to connect some of that mentoring to this Respect Conference. We want to do it in a way that's very thoughtful. We want to take our time and make sure we do it well so it's also sustainable. But I've already started to plant those seeds.
Yeah.
And that's why one of the reasons why we want to continue to work with nonviolent schools Rhode Island is because they do mentor. And I don't know if you have ever met Jonathan Globe Lewis. He's amazing. And they'll bring in some support to actually, when they go to the schools, they actually are meeting with students, but they're also actually mentoring them, particularly around leadership skills, really taking a look at also how their attendance is looking, getting to know their families. So there is a lot of mentoring that happens at the school level. With only 4 people in our department, we need more capacity. And that's why we wanted to make sure that we were able to engage them to help do that work. And that's really the harder work. The harder work is going to the schools and meeting with the students. I think the easier work is presenting at ground, but they're actually going to be on the ground. We will be on the ground as well, but we'll have them as added capacity.
The other question I had is regarding in the justification of spending, the last sentence, it states, if this money is not spent, we will lose the funding and we may jeopardize ability to receive major funding. Can you just elaborate a little more on that sentence?
Absolutely. So this is part of my ESSER, one of my ESSER proposals. I wrote 9 of them. They didn't all get funded, but we were happy to get some of our funding. And so it's always been my belief that when you're using funding, it's important to be able to report that you were funded and that you used the funding you received, so that you can actually use that to obtain additional funding. We can't, we know that ESSER is going away one of these days. And so we want to make sure that we're able to report as we're developing other grant applications with other, like Nellie Mae, Gates, Rhode Island Foundation. We want to be able to say that we receive this funding, that we utilize this funding so that they'll give us more funding. Does that make sense?
It does, actually. Yes, thank you very much. Of course, I have no other questions.
Can you invite the school board to one of these?
Yeah, we invite you all the time. We want you to be there. I'm gonna make sure we get her the dates and she'll send the invites out. Definitely. We would love the school board to come.
I'm checking my email.
I send everything they give me, I always send it to everybody.
On this one, I'm gonna be looking for my email. And I would like to.
All the student equity, that one? Okay.
Yeah, especially around the work on the mentorship. It's very important for us to encourage them. So thank you so much for that. In the absence of any other questions, do we have a motion to recommend this for passage?
So moved.
I support them. All in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any oppositions? The ayes have it. Leo, our last contact for them.
Okay, so on the right side of your folder, you have a flyer that says Equity Leadership Team Lead Ambassadors. That's on the right side. And behind that, you have Dr. Gooden's, who's AKA Vallejo. You have his biography. And you also have a summary of some of the work that he has already started in our district. And so when we started, again, once we relaunched the office, you approved the contract for Dr. Gooden actually back in September of 2022. And initially, the focus was going to be only on principals. There's a text that we're using, which I provided to every principal and assistant principal in the summer, and it's called The 5 Practices of Equity-Focused Leadership. Okay? And he's one of the authors of that text. And so the professional development calendar and schedule had already been done. And so what I was able to do with the time available to us was to book Dr. Gooden to come in and do 2 work sessions, one in November and then one again in May, actually June 1, I think it was. In between that time, principals would have to do some of the work on their own, a lot of reflective work in terms of really creating capacity for equity in their schools. when the Dr. Goodens did this training in November, the assistant principals heard about it, Crystal Lofton heard about it, she actually came, she was excited, and so we extended the contract for asked for additional extension for the assistant principals. So every principal and every assistant principal last year was trained in what it means to be an equity-focused leader. The 5 practices, the first one is prioritizing equity leadership. The second one is preparing for equity leadership. The third one is developing equity leadership teams. That is the third practice. And so this contract is to support the development of equity leadership teams in every single school, K through 12. We have a in-house posting that has already been sent to all schools. We have a copy of it in the folder. And we're asking for 2 adults, teachers from every single school, to step up and apply to be on this team. This year, the focus is just training. We're not developing any teams. There are some schools, a few, that already have some teams, but most schools don't have any teams. And so what we wanted to do this year was have Dr. Gooden continue the work he's done with administrators, and to now focus on teachers in each of the schools, and to train them how to lead these teams, so that by next year, fall 2024, fall 2024, they will be able to lead those teams. And what I mean by that is not just how to be a leader, the skills, the vocabulary, but also the confidence, the courage that it takes to do this work, because it's not easy work, and making sure that they're well-rounded, understand both the context, the content, and have the skills, knowledge, and confidence to actually be leaders of these teams once you begin to recruit for the teams. The recruitment will start next spring, and then the teams will be in place in the fall. And we will have training next summer for school teams. So that's the long vision for this. So this initial contract is just to train up to 78, I think it is 78 individuals, 2 from every school, K through 12. So far, we have 25 teachers who've signed up. We have some schools that are completely full. We have Hope High School sent us 3 names, and we're gonna take all 3. It's a big school, and they're very enthusiastic. We're still working to encourage more schools to join on, and we'll start the training on the 23rd and the 24th, in person, full days. And after that, there'll be hybrid trainings, a mixture of virtual and in person after school. Dr. Gooden is a professor at Columbia University in New York. So some of the trainings during the school year may be virtual and some of them may be in person. So this is just an extension of the work that's already been happening to move it to the adults. I want to just say that while this is happening, the Respect Student Equity Leadership Conferences are happening, right? So the goal is to merge those teams, right? So when the equity leadership teams come together and start full force in the schools, it'll be adults and students who've been trained working together to do this advocacy work at the school level, to help principals with capacity to really be equity focused around this work.
Interesting. Any question?
One question I have is in relation to the disruptive practices that Dr. Goodens describes. Could you outline some methods of how that would relate to student achievement?
Absolutely. So one example is not always accepting no, asking questions as to why, making the case for why you need the services and resources for your students. Oftentimes, principals sometimes are intimidated. You know, they ask for something, they hear no, and then they just say, okay. And one of the things he really focuses on is really having administrators find their voice and to really advocate fiercely for students on the things that they feel are important. So nothing outlandish, it's just very simple things like really, number one, understanding what the needs are of your students. Because if you don't know who your students are, you don't know what the needs are, you really can't have a really focused, firm conversation about what you need. But then also really standing up and also having that team behind you to help you advocate for your students. So a lot of the work is really around empowering administrators, to also make sure that they also empower their teachers. There was something that we were talking about earlier around having conversations in real time when you're getting into classrooms and you're not seeing what you're supposed to see, understanding how to have that conversation immediately with the teacher of the classroom so that you can immediately turn things around and not letting things continue. So it's really about providing them with those skills of advocacy, understanding what's expected in the classroom, understanding how to focus your teachers around this idea of equity. Creating structures in the school and systems in the school so you can have those conversations, and also engaging parents in the conversation. So when he's talking about disruptive practices, if you read the text, and I think Mr. Dean that gave you a copy, but if you guys want a copy of that, I have 2 copies in my office. It's a very thin book. It's not about, it's very thin, it's very simple, it's very practical. It's a workbook actually. There's lots of practical samples, scenarios. There's all types of tools or principles to use. It's pretty practical and very easy to connect to. And so the work is really centered around this systematic way of developing this equity focus. And one way to disrupt is really to build a team. Oftentimes principals are out there by themselves and they forget about the fact that they have a coalition behind them. They have to harness that, create systems to make that happen. And so it's not just that lone voice, but it's an entire team advocating for the needs of their students. Thank you. Did I answer your question?
Thank you. I have no other questions.
So before we recommend this for passage, when you mean see attached, I don't see anything attached. Are you talking about this forward?
No, there should be,
see attached.
you should have a detailed budget sheet attached. And if it's not there,
Was that the Valleyville thing?
Vallejo, yes.
Yeah.
It has like the itemized budget, the number of days, and I don't know why that didn't come through.
I just have to send it to you.
Okay, please.
Yes.
So that we can have a comprehensive, because when I see attached, I was thinking this is the attachment. I think it's a different thing because this relates to a previous contract.
Do you have it, Jerry? You want me to send it to you?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, do we recommend this for passage?
Approved.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any oppositions? Any abstentions? The ayes carry. Please don't forget to say this.
Yes.
So that we can move through the budget.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you very much. Thank you.
So,
Thank you for meeting
motion
in
to
July.
adjourn. Motion to adjourn, please. We adjourn.
I know.
So
That
move
felt like a.
So-
I really should do it.
after 2 hours.
Denny, you okay? You felt like a spring over there. I know, thank you for meeting, because a lot of this wouldn't have moved forward, so we appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
doing
Thank you.
that. We know this is usually a little bit of a break for you, so thank you.
It
We
is.
really appreciate it, it helps keep the work moving, so,
No problem.
so thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Providence School for giving us